Two doctors and a nurse from a hospital in Bucharest have been arrested in a case of suspicious deaths.
Madrid has introduced a new initiative for keeping people cool during heat waves. Former separatist leader of Catalonia, Carles Puigdemont, has returned to Barcelona after fleeing nearly 7 years ago. Israel has said it will no longer facilitate Norwegian diplomats to work in Palestine. 8 diplomats have already had their accreditation revoked by the Israeli Foreign Ministry, which said it made the decision in response to Norway's alleged anti-Israel conduct, including its recognition of a Palestinian state. Norway has called the move an extreme act and said it will have consequences for its relationship with the Israeli government. It comes as a Human Rights Watch report found Israeli soldiers killed at least 7 Palestinians and severely wounded 2 when they attacked a Gaza City home in December. The family members said there were no militants or weapons inside the house and that the family had no connection to any armed group. The Israeli military has not yet responded to the allegations. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia has called the killing of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran a flagrant violation of international law, although it has not made a direct reference to Israel. The statement comes amid rising tensions in the Middle East as fears of a wider regional war grow.
Two doctors and a nurse from a hospital in Bucharest have been arrested in a case of suspicious deaths. In mid-April, 17 patients died within 4 days in the hospital's intensive care unit, triggering a series of investigations. Prosecutors say the doctors had hatched a plan to deliberately lead the patients into cardiorespiratory arrest.
Inculpate a redus voluntar doza de noradrenalină la un pacient aflat în stare destul de gravă.
The aim, prosecutors say, was to cause the death of patients whom the doctors deemed should no longer be kept alive. The doctors have been charged with aggravated murder and attempted murder, and the nurse with perjury.
Important e că descoperim aceste lucruri, să intră la pușcărie cei care fac așa ceva.
The manager of the hospital announced that both he and the medical director will submit their resignation. A powerful 7.1 magnitude earthquake hit the southern coast of Japan on Thursday. The Japan Meteorological Agency said the quake was centered off the southeast coast of Japan's main island of Kyushu. A tsunami advisory was issued following the quake, predicting waves of up to 1 meter. Nuclear plants on Kyushu and Shikoku were checked in order to see if they had sustained any damage, whilst local media reported broken windows at the Miyazaki airport near the epicenter.
The former separatist leader of Catalonia, Carles Puigdemont, has returned to Spain after fleeing nearly 7 years ago. He says he's returned to Barcelona to campaign against socialist Salvador Ila's bid to be regional president, which would bring an end to 14 years of separatist-led governments. Addressing the crowd, Puigdemont accused the Spanish authorities of a crackdown on the Catalan separatist movement. Puigdemont left Spain to avoid arrest after he organised an illegal independence referendum in an attempt to break Catalonia away from the rest of the country. He has now left his self-imposed exile in Brussels and faces pre-trial detention in Spain for embezzlement of public funds. Although a contentious amnesty bill for separatist supporters involved in the illegal 2017 ballot was passed by Spain's parliament earlier this year, the Supreme Court has refused to apply the law to Puigdemont and 2 other former regional ministers. It's the middle of August and temperatures are soaring, but not everyone can escape the city. Some have to work and others can't afford a vacation. In Europe, vacation poverty affects 40 million people, and heat waves have only made things worse. But major cities are increasingly offering options to stay cool and entertained, such as the Take Shelter in Culture initiative in Madrid.
Básicamente, ante la gran afluencia de turistas que vienen en los meses, incluso de julio y agosto, a la ciudad de Madrid, pues buscamos qué mejor que refugiarte de este calor, de estas horas intensas de calor, en la cultura.
It's not just aimed at tourists. Some libraries, cinemas and museums offer free guided tours, discounts or performances during the hottest hours of the day.
Además de promocionar el arte y el flamenco, que es algo que yo creo que nos gusta a todos, ¿no? Buscar un lugar refugio en el que poderte proteger del calor y estar un poco fresquito.
The Círculo de Bellas Artes has become the standout climate shelter this summer. Its ancient ballroom has been transformed into a green oasis.
Aquí estamos a unos 27 grados, un alivio teniendo en cuenta las altas temperaturas que tenemos en el asfalto de Madrid.
People are excited they can work, relax or simply hang out here.
Yo no tengo aire acondicionado, soy freelance, entonces es una buena opción para estar en un sitio más fresco, más bonito, diferente.
Genial, sobre todo las plantas y poder estar en un lugar más fresco y que no sea necesariamente con tanto aire acondicionado, sino que sea como más natural.
There are also heat shelters for the little ones.
Hace mucho calor y no se puede hacer otra cosa, o te metes en un centro comercial o vienes a estos sitios, no tienes mucha más alternativa.
This one near the river is a favourite among parents and kids.
Buscamos planes algo tipo como lo de ahora, ¿no? Que ellos se puedan refrescar, que pasen un buen rato al aire libre y pues eso, un poquito que ellos se esparzan y que aprovechen los días que estamos aquí, que no estén metidos en casa, que al final es lo peor para ellos.
According to the National Statistics Institute, 1 in 3 households with children in Spain cannot afford even a week of vacation.
Far-right demonstrations anticipated by UK police across the country failed to materialise as peaceful anti-racism protesters showed up instead. Police had braced themselves for more violence following a week of rioting and disorder fueled by misinformation over a stabbing attack against young girls in Southport. Stand Up to Racism and other groups planned counter-protests, but in most places were instead met with no opposition. Large, peaceful crowds gathered outside agencies and law firms specialising in immigration, which had been listed by internet groups as possible targets of far-right activity. It was a vast change from rioting that erupted throughout parts of the UK since July the 30th. Far-right extremists had clashed with police, fueled by misinformation about the stabbing attack that killed 3 girls in Southport. Social media users falsely identified the suspect as an immigrant and a Muslim. Upcoming Taylor Swift concerts in Vienna were cancelled after Austrian authorities arrested a 19-year-old man for allegedly plotting an attack in connection with the events. The man was arrested in Ternitz, south of Vienna, and a second man who was believed to be in contact with the first suspect was arrested in the Austrian capital itself.
Nach dem derzeitigen Ermittlungsstand haben sich die Beschuldigten im Internet radikalisiert. Der 19-jährige niederösterreichische Staatsangehörige, Staatsbürger, hat Anfang Juli einen Treueschwur auf den aktuellen Anführer des IS geleistet. In der Folge haben die Beschuldigten konkrete Vorbereitungshandlungen zu einem terroristischen Anschlag getroffen.
Local media say that the man was previously known to authorities as a terrorism suspect. Authorities were tipped off about the attack by a foreign security service, and the man was reportedly arrested following a large police operation with over 100 nearby residents evacuated. All 3 of Swift's upcoming sold-out concerts at the Ernst Happel Stadium in Vienna were cancelled following the arrests. 15 Russian athletes competing at this year's Olympics have an uneasy status as individual neutral athletes. Some in the Olympic Village oppose them taking part, and Russian opinion is divided, with some Russian politicians describing those competing as traitors. Activists gathered information from Russian athletes' social media leading up to the Games, flagging posts they considered showed support for the war. One of these was allegedly Diana Schneider, who became one of the first Russians to win a medal at the Paris Olympics after taking silver in women's doubles.
You published in February 2022 two posts on, you liked two posts on Instagram.
I'm not going to answer anything about politics here.
Okay, my question was only, do you regret it and your position has changed or not?
No, no comments about it. I'm here to talk about tennis and my game today.
Ukraine wanted Russian athletes excluded and opposed Olympic efforts to include them as neutral athletes. Ukraine briefly boycotted Olympic qualifying competitions that allowed Russians to attend, but changed their policy, facing the risk of not being represented at the Olympics at all.
Ми всі прекрасно знаємо, звідки ці атлети, в принципі, і вони не сказали жодного слова проти війни, тобто вони не висловилися за мир навіть. Тому я вважаю, що це дуже прикро, тому що Олімпійські ігри – це про мир. І, в принципі, завжди всі війни зупинялися на період. Але Росія не зупинилася, і в період цих ігор були масовані атаки на міста України. І тому, як терориста можна допустити до змагань про мир?
Для этого условия, либо могут быть еще дополнительные вопросы в отношении России? Да, есть понимание.